Hey,
Hey.
hello there. How are you?
Oh, I'm pretty good. It's 9 o'clock over here in California. How are you doing?
I'm okay. It's been a long couple of days.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, my
Nice to see
friend,
your face.
you too, you too.
Thank
My friend Ron, who has joined this call already, I saw in the comments, is also in your time zone. So got up early to hear us talk. So why don't you start us off by telling us who you are, where you are, and what you do?
Sure. My name is Dale Geist, and I am in Sonoma, California. And what I do is, well, probably the top thing I do is I'm a dad. And I also run Country Queer, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. And I write songs pretty much as a hobby. Occasionally, I'll play out, and that takes up pretty good amount of time.
So tell me more about Country Queer and how it got
Sure.
started and where it is now.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, it got started just about a year ago. At least that's kind of when I had the idea, and I had a job at the time, which I no longer have. Yeah, but it wasn't taking up a ton of my time, and it was providing me a reasonable income. So I thought, if I really wanted to do something, what would that be? And I ran through a bunch of ideas in my head and in notebooks and so forth and so on. And eventually, I realized, well, look, here's this thing that I've been interested in for a while. I am a big fan of all kinds of roots music, especially Americana and country. And I'm bisexual. I've been out for a few. I came out after Pulse, actually,
Mhm.
and right around then, I was also working for No Depression, so I had pretty good chops with creating an online magazine. I was designing the No Depression, and one of the guys that was building it, and I thought, well, what if I, you know, created something for what has to be an underserved audience, which is, LGBTQ people that like, country music and that play country music. And
Mhm.
I knew that there just had to be a ton of us out there, but there was no unifying voice, no place for us to go, no way for us to be seen, right?
Right.
You could go to a show and might think that you're all alone. So that was another part of it. Was I thought, well, we can do merch if we call. So I, when I came up with the name, I was like, well, so if we call it Country Queer, we can do merch, and people will. There's going to be visibility. You can go to a show. You can wear something like that,
I wish I would have
or
thought to grab my patch to hold up here, but you've got the hat, so we're good.
yeah, cool. And so that was another, aspect of it. And I thought, well, we can do the merch where we can spot each other, and we can let, the straights know that we're part of the country music family, or the music family, and they should get used to that.
Hmm.
Um, and then the other part, which we got into a little bit, was I figured we could try putting on shows, because you know it's just a great way to be in community.
Hmm.
So we've done that a little bit, and we're gonna be doing it a little bit more,
And do you
even
do
with
those
live.
in Sonoma?
We did one in Sonoma. We had plans for more in Santa Rosa, which is the nearest city. A
Hmm.
series, a DJ, dances, and sponsoring a couple of other live events in San Francisco and Santa Rosa. And of course, there's no more live events
Right.
in real space, but there are
Yeah.
online ones. We're getting into that.
And so you've done live events, you do interviews, you publish on your website, um, um, you've got merch. So it's really like a complete packaged it's a community that you can easily join into, and there's a lot there. There's really a lot there.
There's a lot there, you know. I mean, and it's mostly me doing the most of the work. I have some contributors who write for the online magazine, and that's, you know, greatly appreciated. You know, when I put on the live show here, there, you know, I had help with that. There's somebody local, Margie Neely, who was setting up the DJ shows at, you know, at a bar, and helping me with some other live stuff. So there's been help, but it's a lot of it's me trying to run this thing that's multi-tentacled.
Yeah.
But I just think it's important, you know, like I can't imagine any piece of that not being there.
I think it's really interesting too, because not every artist who identifies as queer is Orville Peck, where they're so overt and talking so openly about it, as a sort of, you know, advocacy is inherent in what he does. So sometimes I'll read something on Country Queer and be like, huh, didn't know that about that person. And I think that's interesting too, that, you know, everybody is woven into every community. And so to recognize those differences, I think, is important. So tell me, it sounds like I already know the answer to this. How have you been passing the time during, you know, being stuck at home?
Well, so I got furloughed from my job, so that kind of went away. Um, but and for a good couple of weeks, I just was kind of paralyzed, and just was on Twitter a lot and reading news and just trying to figure out what to do. But I do have two kids, and I do have a partner who works as an ICU nurse. So there were some things that I just had to handle. And then, you know, I had this kind of breakthrough one day where I went out and I started doing a bunch of yard work. And it felt really good, because I was moving my body. I was getting some fresh air and sunshine. It's been a glorious spring here, and I live in a beautiful spot. And then at the end of that, I could look around and see that I had actually improved my, you know, environment measurably. So that's a thing that I really started getting into on almost a daily basis, is, you know, improving the yard or improving the house in some small way. And then, you know, I shower off and I start working on Country Queer, and that's, you know, I do as much of that as I can. And I've also been writing songs, and I've had a little bit more time to do that. I've never been prolific, but I am part of a songwriting group that nominally meets once a month, and you're supposed to bring in a new song every time, and I've managed to do that. You know, the ideas have been coming, and there's been adequate time to develop the ideas. So, you know, I love doing that. Like, I love writing a song. It's good.
And the songs that you write, do you write, you know, stuff with an Americana bent, the kind of music that you listen to? Is that also the kind of music that you make?
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's a very, you know, the roots of it are like in, you know, Bob Dylan and Neil Young, like these, like I come out of like that sort of folk rock thing, you know, and Steve Earle, you know, really great writing. Chris Christopherson, these are the people that I sort of idolize, you know, and then like Leonard Cohen, who is not country or really roots, but comes from kind of a folky tradition and is a great
Uh-oh.
exemplar of that stuff. Bruce.
Dale, I'm not sure if you...
Is there am I having issues?
You froze for a second, but you're back.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. But there's also so that there's a lot of that, but there's also what kind of keeps coming out, not in every song. Like I'll do a 3-chord song that's straight up Merle Haggard, you know, wannabe. But then there's the next song will be a bunch of chords that Merle would not use, you know, or Chris would never use. Chris Christopherson has, I think he knows 5 chords. but that's great. Like it's enough for him. But then there's like, because I also, when I was a kid, it was like Elton John, the Carpenters, like there's a melodic top 40 pop thing going on. So that kind of, that comes out, you know, I resisted that for a long time. I thought that's not cool, but it's there, you know, there it
May
is.
as well embrace it, right?
Yeah.
Have you gotten much time to listen to music? Are you listening maybe while you're doing your work outside or anything? What are you listening to?
You know, I haven't listened while I'm working outside. It's not a bad idea, but I like the sounds out here. Like, I don't know if you can hear the birds and stuff. So
Yeah.
that's okay. Um, I listen when we're doing country queer work. It's probably when I do most of my listening.
Mhm.
And if I'm like transcribing an interview, I can't because I have to hear that.
Right.
And that's like, I do that fairly often. If I'm editing a piece, I can put something on. Uh, and you know, but a lot of what I do there is I try to keep up on the stuff that comes across you know, it's kind of work listening, and it's a pleasure because I get exposed to a lot of really fun and cool artists that I may not have known about. Um, but it's bits. Like I'll listen to different people, you know, in one day, and not always the whole song. You know, you got to kind of like, if somebody emails you and says, "Hey, check out my thing," I'll check it out. You know, and you know, and maybe we'll end up doing a piece on them or something. But
I'm typically in that boat too. I run a concert series here in Pennsylvania, and booking agents constantly sending me, "Do you want this band?" So I'm listening to parts of songs and trying to keep up. So I get that, and I can't listen when I'm writing either, at all. Not even classical music without lyrics. I just can't. I can't. My brain can't do both things at once. Um, all right, so what I'm starting to incorporate in light of what's going on, what I'm starting to incorporate into these conversations, I want to make it a practice to start asking people just in my daily interactions what they're doing to be actively anti-racist. What I would like to ask you instead, because of the work you do with Country Queer, what recommendations do you have for people to be more queer friendly and open to, you know, queer artists and the art that they're making?
you know, I mean, go to countryqueer.com and you know, read the stuff we got and find out about cool um, artists, you know, that are playing Americana or folk or country music, that just happen to be queer, and you know that that's there, and that their voices are being marginalized, unconsciously usually, um, but they're not getting the exposure that they would have gotten had they not been open about their orientation or their sexuality or their gender identity. Um, and you know, just recognize, keep in mind that, you know, we're your brother, we're your cousin, we're your, you know, your mom or your, you know, your friend, your, you know, anybody, and you might or might not know it.
That's really good advice. Um, to wrap things up, can you tell us where people can go? We've already said countryqueer.com. Any other recommendations for where we can go, what we can do to support what you do and the things that you care about?
I mean, really, the number one support for me is, since I no longer have a job, is, you know, we've got really high quality merch, and it's I'd go to our Etsy shop, which you can find on countryqueer.com, and buy something, you know, and show the world kind of, you know, where you stand on this stuff. I, before we go, I do need to mention that I'm yeah, I'm feeling pretty good right now, but I'm angry, and I'm upset about what's going on in the world, and I stand solidly with, you know, our Black brothers and sisters that are getting brutalized by people in authority, and you know, I encourage everyone to do what they can to support them.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. Thank you for saying that. And thank you for taking the time to talk with me today. It was nice to have an opportunity to speak with you. For anybody who might watch this, at 1 o'clock Eastern, I'll be talking to Tony Luca, who's in Nashville. And then at 2 and 3, I'll have conversations as well. And then I'll be back at least one more Sunday, if not two, doing this. And all of the videos of these are up on the Cable House Presents, it's Cable with a K, YouTube channel, so that we can put links and tags to websites and things. So thank you again, Dale. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, JJ. It was such a pleasure.
You too. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye. You're going to kick me off, right? I don't have to do anything?
Yep, I got
Okay.
you.